ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुमितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मायं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुतदेवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभश्च कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्री वसादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. So, from today, we will be revising Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, each unit every week, as we discussed and as very appropriately recommended by Nitya due to the auspicious month of Kartik. Happy Kartik every day for everyone. So, Nitya is the first presenter and we'll go one after the other. Nitya.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna everyone. Seeking permission and blessing from all assembled devotees, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Parampara, and Sri Radha Krishna to present Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 1, verses 1 to 3, Prelude to Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadi Asya Ato Anvayat Itirasa Sa Atarvesu Avinaiswara Teni Brahma Hridaye Adikavaye Muyanti Yatsaraya Teho Varimridam Yata Vinimayo Yatra Sri Sargo Amrasa Damna Svena Sada Nirista Kurakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. Vasudeva or Lord Krishna is the cause of all causes. Everything that exists emanates from the Lord. It is natural that a philosophical mind wants to know the origin of creation, and Srimad Bhagavatam gives the direct answer to such inquiry. The history of Srimad Bhagavatam is also glorious. It was compiled by Sri Vasudeva after he had attained the maturity of transcendental knowledge. He wrote this under the instruction of Sri Narada Ji, his spiritual master. Vyasadeva compiled all Vedic literatures, but nevertheless was dissatisfied, and this was observed by his spiritual master, who advised him to write about the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam is described as a spotless Purana. The cosmic manifestations are created, maintained, and annihilated by the Lord's will. The Supreme Lord has the greatest intelligence and the supermost inconceivable energies of all different varieties. Srila Vyasadeva accepts the supreme intelligence as Parameshwara, and that Parameshwara is Lord Sri Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam is the narration of the Swarupa of the Lord manifested by his internal potency, distinguished from the external potency. Srila Vyasadeva makes a clear distinction between the two in this sloka. The manifested internal potency, the spiritual world where the Lord eternally exists with his transcendental paraphernalia, is real. And the external material manifested energy in the form of the material world is only temporary and illusionary, like a mirage in the desert. In the desert, there is no actual water, only the appearance of water. The cosmic creation results from the interaction of the three modes of material nature, and this is so created that it bewilders the mind of the conditioned souls and even the demigods. In this sloka, the words Abhinav and Swarat are significant. These two words distinguish the Supreme Lord from all other living entities. No other living entity is fully cognizant or fully independent. Lord Krishna, as the chief engineer, knows every nook and corner of this cosmic creation. Beginning from Lord Brahma to the insignificant ant, no one is independent of him. The Lord is compared to a mine of gold, and the cosmic creations are compared to objects made from gold, like rings, necklaces, and so on. Though qualitatively one with the gold in the mine, but quantitatively different. Therefore, the absolute truth is simultaneously one and different. Here in this sloka, it is stated that the Supreme Lord inspired the secondary creator, Lord Brahma, to carry out his creative function. So the supreme intelligence behind all creations is Lord Krishna. He is Param Satyam, or the supreme truth. Nothing is equal or superior to him or independent of the absolute truth. Srila Vyasadeva invokes the Gayatri mantra, Dhimahi, in the sloka. Gayatri mantra is meant for spiritually advanced people. One must therefore acquire Brahmanical qualities or be perfectly situated in goodness to transcendently realize the Lord. The focus is on meditation. The absolute truth is meditated upon both in the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Gayatri mantra. The ultimate goal is the absolute truth. When one surrenders unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and accepts Lord as the cause of all causes, then he becomes a Mahatma or a great soul. Srimad Bhagavatam establishes the highest dharma and the highest truth. Srimad Bhagavatam describes the Bhagavan feature of the absolute truth, who is the root of everything. It is higher than Karmakanda and Jnanakanda. Religiosity not progressing is not real religion. Religion for fruitive activities and material desires is pretentious religion, Kaitava Dharma, and is not recommended. One becomes qualified to hear Srimad Bhagavatam after many pious deeds. Who is eligible? Only devotees who are pure at heart, Nirmat Saranam, the pure and non-envious, have the qualification. The desire to hear Srimad Bhagavatam sincerely is the first qualification. One must hear this transcendental message submissively and attentively from a qualified soul in disciplic succession. Srimad Bhagavatam is a sublime literature which surpasses all other Vedic scriptures due to its transcendental qualities. It is the cream and ripened fruit of all Vedic literatures. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are narrated by Srila Sukadeva Goswami. In Sanskrit, the parrot is also known as Sukha. When the ripened fruit is cut by the red beaks of such birds, the sweet flavor is enhanced. Srimad Bhagavatam, the Vedic fruit, which is ripe and mature in knowledge, is spoken through the lips of Sukadeva Goswami, who is compared to a parrot, not for his ability to repeat exactly what he heard from his father, but to present the Srimad Bhagavatam in a way that it appeals to all classes of men. This ripened fruit has come down carefully through the line of disciplic succession without any change or disturbance. Sri Narada Muni brought it from the spiritual world and gave it to his disciple Vyasadeva, who spoke it to his son Sukadeva Goswami, who delivered this message to Parikshit Maharaj 7 days before his death. One must be careful to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from the right source in disciplic succession to relish the transcendental taste. Srimad Bhagavatam is not only to be heard but relished. Drink it with the ears. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
All right. For the rest of chapter 1, Ritu is the presenter. So Ritu is new to presentations, and she has recorded her presentation. I'll play and then we'll pause for questions, realizations. Let's hear from Ritu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Hare Krishna everyone. I request permission and blessings from all the devotees, Srila Prabhupada, Shri Guru Parampara, Shri Shri Radha Krishna. Please forgive me for my shortcomings and mistakes. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today I will be presenting verses from the first canto, chapter 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam, part 2, verses 4 to 8, titled The Sages Glorify Suta Goswami, where the great sages express their admiration and respect for Suta Goswami. Following that, we will delve into part 3, verses 9 to 23, titled The 6 Questions of the Sages, which highlight the profound inquiries posed by the sages to Suta Goswami. At the sacred forest of Naimisharanya, a special assembly of great sages gathered, led by the Honorable Sonak Rishi. Their noble goal was to perform a grand 1,000-year sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord and his devotees. This sacred gathering sought to restore dharma and bring spiritual guidance in an age when it was sorely needed. Among the assembled sages, the distinguished speaker Sri Suta Goswami was invited to share his spiritual wisdom. In recognition of his remarkable purity and profound knowledge, the sages honored him with the Vyasana, the elevated seat reserved for the spiritual successor to Srila Vyasadeva. Let us first understand why Suta Goswami was so highly respected. Suta Goswami possessed extraordinary qualities. He was anagha, free from all sinful behaviors such as illicit relationships, animal slaughter, intoxication, and gambling. His life was an exemplar of purity and virtue. He was adhitani, deeply learned in the Vedic scriptures, and puranani, fully versed in the Puranas. He was sa itihasani, well versed in histories, and dharma shastras, the guiding course for spiritual progress. Beyond learning, he was agyatani, a skilled teacher who clearly explained these sacred texts to others. He deeply understood the teachings of Srila Vyasadeva, appreciating their true meaning and mood. He was snigdha, meaning gentle and humble toward his spiritual teacher, and Saumya, calm, respectful, and free of pride. With such spotless wisdom and humility, Suta Goswami was the perfect guide to present profound spiritual truths. However, the sages also recognized the difficult time in which they lived, the age of Kali Yuga, marked by the decline of virtues and growing challenges for mankind. This context made the guidance of a pure teacher even more critical. The prominent qualities of people in Kali Yuga, as described in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.10. People have short lifespan, alp ayush, living only briefly in this world. They are quarrelsome, kalha, living in conflict and strife. Hence, Kali Yuga is called the age of quarrel. They are lazy, especially regarding spirituality, manda, delaying or neglecting what is truly important. They are misguided, sumanda matya, educated only for material gain, losing sight of spiritual realization. Srila Prabhupada described such education as a slaughterhouse system because it kills the chance for the soul's awakening. They are unfortunate, mandbhagya, overwhelmed by sense gratification and distractions. And they are constantly disturbed, upadruta, with anxious and restless minds. Despite these challenges, the sages emphasize the remedy most accessible in Kali Yuga, the hearing and chanting of Lord Krishna's glories, which purifies the heart and awakens devotion. Armed with this understanding, the sages posed 6 profound questions to Suta Goswami, seeking answers to steer humanity back toward spiritual truth and peace. The first question is from verse 9. What is the absolute and ultimate good for all people? Answer is from 1.2.6 and 1.2.7. Suta Goswami answers that the highest good, called Shreyas, is to develop pure love for God through devotional service or bhakti. This path leads to eternal happiness beyond material conditions. The second question is from verse 11. What is the essence of all scriptures for the good of all beings? Answer is from Canto 1, Chapter 2. Here Suta Goswami defines devotional service as the core, the essence that all sacred texts guide us toward. It is the highest principle behind all spiritual teachings. The third question is from verse 12. Why did the Supreme Lord appear in the womb of Devaki as the son of Vasudeva? Answer is from 1.2.34 and 1.3.28. The Lord's divine appearance has a purpose: to reclaim the fallen and restore goodness. The fourth question is from verse 17. Describe the Lord who performs adventures in his various incarnations known as Purusha avatars. Answer is from 1.2.30 through 1.2.33 and 1.3.1 to 1.3.5. Suta Goswami highlights the Lord's pastimes or leelas, divine exploits that reveal his compassion and supreme power. The fifth question is from verse 18. Narrate the pastimes of the Lord's multi-incarnations, Leela avatars. They are explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3. The sixth and final question is from verse 23. After the Lord's departure, to whom have the religious principles taken shelter? Answer is from Srimad Bhagavatam 1.3.43. Suta Goswami explains that religion now rests in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself, which contains the full transcendental knowledge and is considered non-different from the Lord. These 6 questions and answers serve as a timeless guide addressing the deepest spiritual concerns facing humanity. They direct us to pure devotion, reveal the Lord's compassionate acts, and anchor hope in the eternal scripture of Srimad Bhagavatam. From confusion to clarity, from quarrel to peace, this sacred text shines as a beacon of truth for all ages. Please forgive me for my shortcomings. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Any questions, comments, realizations for Nitya and Ritu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Krishna.
Beautiful presentation. Prabhuji, you should stop saying that Ritu is new in presentation. She's teaching us how to present the presentation, Prabhuji.
Very good. Correct. Ritu does very good presentations. Although she is new, she does very good presentations. Very good. Okay.
Prabhuji, really enjoyed the refreshing presentations by both our senior devotee Nitya and also by Ritu. It's really nice. Thank you to both of them.
Okay, very good. All right. So Nitya and Ritu have already done really super presentation, but I will also do since we agreed upon. So Canto 1 is titled Creation, and there is an additional layer of division in Srimad Bhagavatam besides the chapter division, which is known as unit, which covers few chapters to focus on the thought process across the few chapters. So unit 1 is titled Introduction to Srimad Bhagavatam, and which will run from the start of chapter 1 to chapter 3, verse number 39. Chapter 1 is titled Questions by the Sages. So initial 3 verses are known as the prelude to Srimad Bhagavatam. Prelude means introduction, where the subject and glories of Srimad Bhagavatam are described. And then few verses, the sages of Naimisharanya glorify Sutta Goswami, where Sutta Goswami's qualifications are described and the inquiries by sages start. And the last set of verses, the sages condemn the state of people in Kali Yuga. And for the benefit of all, the sages ask 6 questions. So Krishna is the absolute truth. We have to know Krishna as absolute truth based on the Swarup Lakshana and Tatastha Lakshana. And therefore, the first verse in Srimad Bhagavatam starts with all these qualities. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadi Asya Yato Anvayatitarascharteshu Abhigyana Swarat Tene Brahmaridaya Adi Kavaye Muyante Yatsuraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yata Vinimayo Yatra Trisarga Amrasha Damne Swena Sada Nirasta Kohakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. So, Swarup Lakshana are personal characteristics or essential characteristics or intrinsic symptoms of Krishna, and Tatastha Lakshana are marginal characteristics or something that is not part of essential nature. The intrinsic quality of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, is that he is Satyam Param Ishwaram. He is the absolute truth. And it is Krishna alone who is Abhigyana, means he is fully cognizant. And it is Krishna alone who is Swarat, meaning fully independent. Brahmaji is not Abhigyana, not fully cognizant. And Brahmaji is not Swarat, not fully independent. The analogy to explain this is given that God can create machines like humans that can keep duplicating itself. No human being has the capacity to create such a machine which can duplicate itself. This is the exclusive characteristics of God. Therefore, no one is equal to nor greater than him. Another analogy of a chief engineer is given to explain the Abhigyana characteristics. Abhigyana means fully cognizant. Just as the chief engineer is aware of everything, even though not directly involved in the construction, but all activities are carried out under the supervision of the chief engineer. That's how he knows everything. So Supreme Personality of Godhead is Abhigyana. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations in the material world. Maya works under the direction of Krishna, as Krishna is described in Bhagavad Gita 9.10. Maya adhyakshena prakriti. So prakriti or material nature is not the creator, because prakriti has no capacity to create. And Brahmaji is not the primary creator, rather Brahmaji is secondary creator. And therefore in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.1, it says, Tene Brahma Hridaye Adi Kavaye, meaning Krishna first imparted the knowledge unto the heart of the first living being, Brahmaji. Only then Brahmaji was able to start creation, and that too secondary creation. Before Brahmaji was instructed, Brahmaji did not know anything. He was searching, what do I do? In the first verse, the Gayatri mantra is referenced. because Gayatri Mantra is the meditation on Absolute Truth. The mood of chanting Gayatri Mantra is the mood of Dhimahi, meditation. The same Absolute Truth is being meditated upon in Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, it starts with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and the verse ends with Satyam Param Dhimahi. Next, Srimad Bhagavatam is higher than Gyan Kanda and Karma Kanda. Karma Kanda is demigod worship. Religiosity not progressing beyond Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha is not real religion, is cheating and is pretentious, because such religion is based on bodily concept of life, and such religion is based on bodily birth. And therefore, the verse number 2 again is a very important verse. It explains, Dharma projeta kaitava, atra paramo nirmatsaranam satam, vedyam vastvam atra vastu shivatam, tapatraya unmulanam. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite, Kimva Pare, Ishwar Sadhyo Hridiya Avratute, Atra Kirtibhi Shushubhi Tatsharat. Dharma means real characteristics. Soul's intrinsic nature is to serve. As the soul is part of Krishna, serving Krishna is the intrinsic nature, the real dharma of the soul. Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest truth because Srimad Bhagavatam provides information on the highest absolute truth, the Bhagwan feature of the absolute truth. Srimad Bhagavatam can only be understood by devotees like you all who are nirmatsaranam, pure at heart. One who is not nirmatsaranam, he cannot understand. So only one who is nirmatsaranam, non-envious, not just non-envious, there is no tendency to envy anyone, just like you all. Man performs pious activities for some material gain, for sense gratification. Rather, one must be anxious to hear this transcendental message. The desire to sincerely hear is the first qualification to advance on the path of spirituality. And the word in the verse is shushusho, that attentively and submissively hear. Now, Srimad Bhagavatam is not only to be heard, but Srimad Bhagavatam is to be relished. One has to drink Srimad Bhagavatam with ears. Relishing Srimad Bhagavatam means what all you can apply for yourself from each verse, from each chapter. Srimad Bhagavatam is originally sweet and became more sweeter when Srimad Bhagavatam is touched by the lips of Sukadeva Goswami. Now, how to drink Srimad Bhagavatam? Or why to drink Srimad Bhagavatam? There is nothing to be rejected in Srimad Bhagavatam. An example is that, say, when you eat a mango, you generally eat the mango pulp and you throw away the seed. But Srimad Bhagavatam is full of rasa. There is nothing to be rejected. Srimad Bhagavatam coming down through parampara, therefore, relish and drink because there is no dirt on Srimad Bhagavatam. An example to understand this is that if a fruit falls on the ground, gets mixed with dirt, hence you cannot relish the fruit. But Srimad Bhagavatam came down through parampara, therefore there is no dirt. The qualities of representative of Srila Vyasadeva is described for Suta Goswami being the representative of Srila Vyasadeva, that one should be free from vice, anaga, well versed in scripture, adhitani, as well as purnani, means puranas, as well as histories, which is sa itihasani, and also the scriptures that explain and give direction to progressive life, which is Dharma Shastrani. Then the disciple or the representative should have explained the scriptures, which is Akhyatani. And Sutta Goswami also has the knowledge of Srila Vyasadeva. To be submissive, which is Snigdhasya, and be gentle, Saumyasa. Disciple has to be gentle and submissive, which we have discussed in Bhagavad Gita 4.34. This is the qualification. If we try to show our knowledge and our capacity, then this is not the way Guru is going to reveal. The sages describe the points of people in Kali Yuga, that people have less lifespan, Alpa Ayush, they are quarrelsome, Kalo, in this age of Kali, in the age of quarrel. They are lazy, Manda, misguided, Sumanda Mataya, unlucky, Mandabhagya, and always disturbed, Upadrita. And therefore, for the benefit of all people, the sages ask these 6 questions. I will also briefly describe the answer to these 6 questions. The answers come later on, but for context, I am briefly describing the answers also. Question 1 is from verse 9. What is the absolute and ultimate good for all people in general? Answer is given in 1.2.6 and 7. To develop a love of God through bhakti. And the one word Sanskrit for question 1 is Shreyas. Second question is Saram, that what is the essence of all scriptures for the good of all living beings, comes from chapter 1, verse 11. The answer is given in Bhagavatam, Canto 1, chapter 2. Devotional service is the essence of all scriptures. Essentially, the answer to question number 1 and question number 2 is bhakti and the practice of bhakti. Question number 3 is from verse number 12. Jata, that why did the Lord appear in the womb of Devaki as the son of Vasudeva? Answer is given in 1.2.34 and 1.3.28 to reclaim people, the fallen people. Question number 4 is from verse number 17 about Leela. Describe about the Lord who performs adventures in his various incarnations. So this is about Purusha avatars. Answer is explained in 1.2.30 to 33 and 1.3.1 to 5. Question number 5 is from verse number 18 about Leela avatar that narrate the pastimes of the Lord's multi-incarnations. Answer is explained in Canto 1, chapter 3. And the 6th question is Sharanam, means shelter, that to whom the religious principles have taken shelter after the Lord's departure, as is there described in Canto 1, chapter 23. And the answer is given in 1.3.43 that everyone should take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam. That's a quick summary of chapter 1. Questions, comments, realizations. All right, so next part, Mansi was supposed to deliver. Canto 1, chapter 2, the initial 2 parts, but I don't see her present here. Is anybody willing to do the presentation for Canto 1, chapter 2, verses 1 to 11? Too difficult? All right, so I will briefly speak on behalf of Mansi, the Canto 1, Chapter 2, parts 1 and 2. So, Unit 1 is titled Introduction to Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chapter 2 is Divinity and Divine Service. This Chapter 2 is very, very important chapter. My spiritual master, His Grace Vaishnadas Adhikari, has said in many lectures and to all disciples that all should memorize this entire Chapter 2. More than 50% of the verses in this Chapter 2 are key verses. So Sutta Goswami starts responding by first offering respects to Sukadev Goswami, to Srila Vyasadeva, as well as Sutta Goswami also appreciates the inquiries by the sages. So Sutta Goswami is teaching us by offering obeisances and respects to his spiritual masters that a sincere disciple never thinks he knows better than his guru. The disciple knows that he is speaking because of Guru's mercy, and the disciple is only repeating. The words Dvija, Vipra, Brahmana, and Vaishnava are described that a spiritual master initiates a sincere disciple, and the ordinary conditioned soul takes second birth. This is known as Dvija. After qualifying as Dvija, he studies Vedas and he becomes a Vipra or a qualified Brahmana. And the Vipra makes further progress, becomes a qualified Brahmana, and still makes further progress until he becomes a Vaishnava. Vaishnava is a self-realized learned Brahmana. The few characteristics of Srimad Bhagavatam are described that Srimad Bhagavatam attracted even Sukadev Goswami, that Srimad Bhagavatam is the natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Srimad Bhagavatam is one unrivaled commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the transcendental torchlight by which one can see perfectly the transcendental absolute truth, which is realized in 3 stages. Lowest stage is Brahman realization. Next higher is Paramatma realization. And the highest is Bhagavan realization. Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Purana and especially meant for those who desire to get out of material entanglement permanently. Sutta Goswami thanks the sages for the questions because people in material world seem to be satisfied, but they are actually only temporarily satisfied. Rather, they are actually frustrated. And therefore, they want new things every day because they are not satisfied. And Sutta Goswami says to the sages that your questions are worthy because they relate to Krishna and are relevant for the world's welfare. And these questions and the discussions on these questions will satisfy the Atma. Perfectly says, Yena Atma Suprasiddhati. So sages ask the first question what is ultimate good for all people? And the second question is, what is the essence of all literature? Those get answered here in 1.2.6 and 1.2.7. 1.2.6 is, of course, a very important verse. Savai pumsa parod dharma yato bhakti adokshane. Ahetu ki apratahita yayatma suprasiddhati. These verses explain that pure devotion to Krishna is the essence of all scriptures. And this will give satisfaction to the hungry soul. So it says Paro Dharma, the supreme occupation, is bhakti to Krishna. Now, two paths are described. One is Pravarti Marg, which is the path of sense enjoyment. Now, this is inferior because in reality, there is no happiness in sense enjoyment. It's a futile attempt. Pravarti Marg is inferior because it is temporary, miserable, and illusory. And then Nivritti Marg is the path of renunciation, the path of sacrifice for the supreme cause. This is a superior path. The primary characteristics of Paro Dharma, means the primary characteristics of bhakti, is that it should be ahituki, causeless, and apratahita, unbroken. And the secondary characteristics of Paro Bhakti is yayatma suprasiddhati, that this will completely satisfy the self. Now, a question here is whether knowledge and detachment are limb of bhakti. So we have to understand that there are certain cultivation of knowledge and certain vairagya that can help us establish our footage on the path of bhakti. So pure devotion to Krishna produces jnana and vairagya. But independent jnana cannot provide proper and full results. Independent jnana cannot provide bhakti. So to understand about jnana, we have to understand that there is cultivation of certain jnana and vairagya that can help us establish footage in Krishna consciousness. And then there is certain impersonal jnana, which is not a limb of bhakti. So how do you understand this? So straightforward answer is about what is knowledge as a limb of bhakti and what knowledge is not a limb of bhakti is that impersonal knowledge, such as studying Vedas, Upanishad, to attain Brahman effulgence, to merge with Brahman, this is Mayavad concept. We don't need this. Such impersonal knowledge is definitely not a limb of bhakti. And certain knowledge, such as reading bhakti scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, which describe the form, quality, sweetness of the Lord, these bring out bhakti in us. Therefore, these are definitely limb of bhakti. And a common worldly day-to-day knowledge is that if a friend uses emotional blackmail, that you, Hare Krishna, people don't have any emotions for others and forces you to go to a movie with you, and you end up getting disturbed even after coming back from the movie, because previously to going to the movie, you were somewhat focused and somewhat diligent in your sadhana, and after coming back from the movie, your mind is distracted. So you need this knowledge to establish the footing that What is anukul for bhakti, I have to accept, and what is pratikul for bhakti, I have to reject. And other pious activities, such as giving charity or austerities in general, these are pious activities. These do not cause bhakti. Yes, they can help you as a secondary factor, but they are not cause of bhakti. Bhakti is the cause of bhakti. And any activities we do in the material world that does not lead us to being attracted to hearing the messages of Krishna, then it is Shrama Evahi Kevalam, so much useless labor. I will pause here as for this first part and second part of chapter 2. Next is part 3, where Chandran Prabhu is going to speak. Chandran Prabhu, you want to speak or you want me to play your recording?
Prabhuji, to save the time, I would appreciate if you could, if it is clear, if the audio is clear, it can be brought.
Okay, I will play your audio.
Thank you, Prabhuji. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Parampara, and Sri Sri Radha Krishna. Seeking permission from Guru and Gauranka to speak on the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 12 to 22. Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is the process for achieving pure devotion to Krishna. Requesting devotees assembled to forgive me for any shortcomings. Realizing absolute truth. What is absolute truth and why to realize it? Supreme Person is realized by devotional service, which is based on the foreground of full knowledge combined with detachment from material association, and which is fixed by the oral reception of the Vedanta Shruti. This is the only perfect method by which the seriously inquisitive student can realize the absolute truth. What are the three types of devotees? Neophytes have no knowledge and are not detached from material association. Material devotees are more attached to material benefit than transcendental profit. Second-class devotee can see four principles in the devotional line, namely personality of Godhead is devotee, the ignorant, and the envious. They are eligible to know the absolute truth. Third-class devotee has to receive the instructions of devotional service from the authoritative sources of Bhagavata. Bhagavatam is the message of Godhead. Transcendental matters are not to be received from the professional man, who will spoil them as the serpent spoils milk by the touch of his tongue. Without hearing and following the instructions from Upanishads, Vedanta, and other literatures, through a true devotee, one cannot make a spiritual progress. By assimilating such messages, one can see all pervading, localized aspect of the personality of Godhead within his own self constantly. This is called Samadhi. Human society in the world is divided into four castes and four orders of life. Four castes: intelligent, material, productive, and laborer castes. These castes are classified in terms of one's work and qualifications, not by birth. The orders of life are student, householder, retired, and devotional life. These are classified in the best interest of human society. Ultimate aim must be to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This institutional function of human society is known as the system of Varnasrama Dharma. In Kali Yuga, it is utilized by the selfish men to pose an artificial predominance over the weaker sections. The divisions of castes and orders of life are meant for smooth living. Bhagavatam defines that the highest aim of life and the Varnasrama Dharma is to cooperate jointly for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.13. In this castes and orders of life, general occupation of life, the four processes are glorifying, hearing, remembering, and worshipping. The actual object of glorification is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has created everything manifested before us. Spiritual spark with material elements creates a not a fruity work. Constant association with the spiritual activities of the Supreme Lord gradually associated with the spiral activities of the Supreme Lord gradually spiritualizes the conditional soul and ultimately severs the knot of material bondage. Liberation from material bondage is a byproduct of devotional service. Karma, overcoated with devotional service, is called Karma Yoga. Empirical knowledge, overcoated with devotional service, is called Jnana Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is independent, that means remembering, glorifying, and worshipping Him always is the perfect way of devotional service. Servants of God are respected as God by the devotees who actually want to go back to Godhead. Such servants of God are called Mahatmas or Tirthas. Servants of God urge people to become devotees of the Lord. The Lord declares in Bhagavad Gita 18.69 that no one is dearer to Him than one who risks everything to preach His glory. By serving the servants of the Lord, one gradually gets the quality of such servants, and thus one becomes qualified to hear the glories of God. The eagerness to hear about God is the first qualification of devotee who is eligible for entering the kingdom of God. Developing a taste for hearing and chanting the holy sound, it is done through the medium of service to the pure devotee of the Lord. The Lord is reciprocally despondent to His devotees. The Lord acts from within the devotee in such a way that the devotee may easily go back to Him. One cannot enter into the kingdom of God unless one is perfectly clear of all sins. Women and wealth are very difficult problems for the devotee making progress to God. Liberation is easy only by the divine grace of the Lord. The remedy to eliminate inauspicious things from the heart is the association of Bhagavatas as suggested. The two types of Bhagavatas are Book Bhagavata and Devotee Bhagavata. Book Bhagavata is full of information about personality of Godhead and His pure devotees. The Devotee Bhagavata is a direct representation of Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. By serving one of them, one gets gradual promotion on the path of devotion. The self-satisfied Atmanandi is transcendental to the material state of existence. This perfection is possible only by irrevocable devotional service. The soul's activity becomes adulterated in contact with matter. The deceased activities are expressed in the form of lust, desire, hankering, inactivity, foolishness, and sleep. The devotional service eliminates the effects of passion and ignorance. The devotee in the mode of goodness raised to the position of Vasudeva, a state of sattva or Shuddha sattva, wherein this stage only the devotee could see Krishna eye to eye by the dint of pure affections for the God. A devotee is always qualified with all the good qualities of God. Quantitatively, such qualifications may be different, but qualitatively, both Lord and his devotee are one and the same. Bhagavad Gita 7.3 says, out of many thousands of ordinary men, one fortunate man endeavors for perfection in life. A man who knows the responsibility of human life and thus tries to make life perfect by following the prescribed duties. Bhagavad Gita 18.55 says, the scientific knowledge of Sri Krishna is understood only by the process of devotional service, that is Bhakti Yoga. If one understands that he has nothing to do with matter, he becomes elevated as a spiritual being. The attainment of success is possible for one with Brahmanical qualification. A Brahmana is the symbol of Sattva Guna or mode of goodness, which is the highest stage of human life because of its good qualities. A pure Vaishnava is liberated soul and is transcendental even to the position of a Brahmana. One has to surpass the Brahmanical stage and reach the Vasudeva stage to understand the personality of Godhead, Krishna. Fact is that one cannot understand the science of personality of Godhead unless freed from contamination of the material modes. The transcendentalists affirm that the soul and super soul are two different identities, qualitatively one but quantitatively different. Sri Krishna is like the sun, and the materialistic speculations about the absolute truth are like the darkest midnight. In the presence of the sun, the darkness cannot stand. Truths that were hidden within the darkness of ignorance become clearly manifested by the mercy of the Krishna who is residing in everyone's heart as the super soul. Devotee engaged in his service in transcendental love cannot remain in darkness. He comes to know absolute and the relative truths. Perfect knowledge is called parampara knowledge, coming down from the authority to the submissive oral receiver. The devotees are submissive, therefore transcendental knowledge descends from personality of Godhead to Brahma and to his sons and disciples in succession. The enlightenment for the devotee is to distinguish the knot of spirit and matter which is untied by the Lord. This knot is called ahankara, falsely obliges a living being to become identified with matter. A living being creates his own chain of fruitive works and enjoys the good and bad effects of those actions life after life. But in the loving service of the Lord, he is free from chain of karma. His actions no longer create any reaction. Lord Sri Krishna is the Swayam Rupa, personality of Godhead, and all other forms of Godhead and thousands of manifestations are the personality of and Godhead are Lord Sri Krishna's planary portions and integrated parts. The living entities are separated parts and parcels of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, Lord Sri Krishna is the original form of Godhead. His past times and eternal and are manifested in due course. Thank you for patient listening. Excuse me for any shortcomings. Thank you.
Okay, Shivangi and Divya are next presenters.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. My sister Divya and I are seeking permission and blessings from all of you, Srila Prabhupada, Sri Guru Parampara, as well as Shri Radha Krishna to offer this summary as part of Unit 1, particularly Canto 1, Chapter 2, titled Divinity and Divine Service, from verses 23 to 34. Please forgive us for our shortcomings and mistakes. Sutta Goswami speaks about our Lord Krishna as the supreme goal of life. The Supreme Lord is indirectly associated with the three modes of material nature such as passion, goodness, and ignorance, just for the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material world. Simply for this purpose, he assumes the three qualitative forms of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Out of all of these three forms, it is most important for the conditioned living entity to offer worship to Lord Vishnu, as he is the controller of the material world. Just as the state determines a prisoner's liberation from the jailhouse, so similarly, only Lord Vishnu can award the conditioned living entity liberation from the prison house of the material world. In brief, Sutta Goswami highlights the differences and hierarchy between the three modes. The mode of passion is better than the mode of ignorance. However, the mode of goodness is the best because only when one is situated in the mode of goodness can they begin to realize the supreme absolute truth. The 12 Mahajans, or the 12 agents of the Lord who know the true purpose of religion, render transcendental devotional service unto him. All must follow these Mahajans and fulfill the supreme goal of life. Devotees are unenvious. Being unenvious, they do not engage in demigod worship, rather, they worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is because they realize that the demigods are the individual parts and parcels of the Lord, unable to grant liberation from the mire of material existence. Persons trapped in the modes of passion and ignorance tend to offer worship to those in the same modes. For example, their forefathers or other living entities and demigods, and this is because they are driven by desires for sense gratification. One should give up all such types of worship and work hard to worship the Supreme Lord by their efforts, giving up all other kinds of kaitava dharma, which is religious activity that has been condemned in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam. All culture of knowledge, austerities, sacrifice, and activities must be aimed at changing the quality of the influence that is acting upon us to direct us towards the supreme goal. The supreme goal of the revealed scriptures is concluded to be that the ultimate object of yoga, knowledge, sacrifice, and love is the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna.
After explaining how the Lord is the supreme goal of life, Sutta Goswami goes on to describe how the Purusha Avatara creates and maintains. In the beginning of material creation, the Lord, being always transcendental with his own spiritual qualities, created the causal and effectual energies of the material world. He is always unaffected by the qualities of the material modes. Upon creating the material world, the Lord expands himself as Paramatma and enters into it. As the eternal friend of the living entities, the Lord, by one of his plenary portions, accompanies the living entities to guide them in their material enjoyment and to become witness to all activities. The Lord, as Super Soul, pervades all things, just as fire pervades wood, and so he appears to be of many varieties, though he is the Absolute One without a second. Just as fire can be manifested from wood and butter derived from churning milk, the presence of the Lord as Paramatma can be perceived by the sincere hearing and chanting process in devotional service. Man proposes and God disposes. The Lord as Paramatma helps the living entity obtain his desires. Although unaffected by the living entity's experiences with happiness and distress in the material condition, the Lord is eternally sympathetic and compassionate towards the conditioned soul. He always tries to turn the conditioned soul towards true happiness. Sutta Goswami finally describes how the Lord's incarnations appear to reclaim these fallen conditioned souls from the mire of material existence. He manifests his transcendental pastimes amongst them just to create the desire to go back to Godhead. His purpose is clear: bring the suffering and forgetful conditioned souls back home, back to Godhead. This concludes the summary of Canto 1, Chapter 2, titled Divinity and Divine Service. Thank you all for listening. Hare Krishna.
Okay, very good. In essence of time, I will first do the quick summary of Chapter 2. We'll come back to realizations and feedback. So, Unit 1 is titled Introduction to Srimad Bhagavatam, and this Chapter 2 is titled Divinity and Divine Service. It's a very important chapter. Per the instructions of my spiritual master, one should memorize this entire Chapter 2. More than 50% of the verses are anyway key verses. Sutta Goswami offers respects to his spiritual masters, Sukadeva Goswami and Srila Vyasadeva, as well as also appreciates the inquiries by the sages. The sincere disciple never thinks he knows better than his guru. The disciple knows that he is speaking because of Guru's mercy, and the disciple is only repeating. 4 extraordinary characteristics of Srimad Bhagavatam are described that Bhagavatam attracted even Paramahamsa, pure devotee like Sukadeva Goswami. Bhagavatam is the natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra, is the cream of Vedic knowledge. Srimad Bhagavatam is one unrivaled commentary on Vedanta Sutra. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the transcendental torchlight by which one can perfectly realize the transcendental absolute truth. Srimad Bhagavatam is spotless Purana, especially meant for those who desire to get out of material entanglement permanently. Sutta Goswami thanks the sages for their questions, because people in the material world seem to be satisfied, but actually they are only temporarily satisfied. Rather, they are actually frustrated. Therefore, Sutta Goswami thanks the sages that your questions are worthy because they relate to Krishna. They are Krishna Samprashno. And they are relevant for the world's welfare, because these will satisfy the self, satisfy the Atma. Yena Atma Suprasiddhati. Sutta Goswami answers first 2 questions of the sages. Question 1 is, what is ultimate good? And question 2 is, what is the essence of all literature? The answer is essentially same about bhakti or devotional service is the ultimate good and the essence of all literatures, which is described in 1.2.6 and 7, that pure devotion to Krishna. And verse number 8 further substantiates the answer to the verse 6 and 7, that the dharma, the activities we do in the material world, are so much useless labor if it does not lead to bhakti. The paro dharma, or the supreme occupation, is bhakti. There are 2 paths described. Pravarti marg is the path of sense enjoyment, is inferior because there is no happiness at all. Pravarti marg is inferior because it is temporary, miserable, and illusory. And then Nivritti marg is the path of renunciation, the path of sacrifice for the supreme cause is superior. The primary characteristics of parodharma, primary characteristics of bhakti are ahituki, means causeless and without any material desire, as well as second primary characteristics is apratahita, unbroken. And the secondary characteristics of parodharma, bhakti, is yayatma suprasiddhati, that will completely satisfy the self. Now, what knowledge and detachment is a limb of bhakti and not a limb of bhakti? So there are certain cultivation of jnana and vairagya that can help establish the footage in bhakti, and pure devotion to Krishna produces jnana, means knowledge, and vairagya, renunciation. Independent jnana cannot provide proper results, cannot get bhakti. So there is cultivation of certain jnana and vairagya which can help us get footage in Krishna consciousness, which is actually a limb of bhakti. Therefore, we need to understand what knowledge is not a limb of bhakti and what knowledge is a limb of bhakti. So, impersonal knowledge such as studying of Vedas, Upanishad to attain Brahman effulgence, this is not required. This is definitely not a limb of bhakti. And certain knowledge such as studying bhakti scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, etc., which help us to bring out bhakti. This helps in bhakti. This is definitely a limb of bhakti, such knowledge. And a practical world day-to-day example that a close friend blackmails emotionally to take you to a movie and you get disturbed after coming back from the movie. So you need to know this knowledge also, that what is anukul for bhakti, I will accept. And what is pratikul for bhakti, I will reject. Charity, austerity, they are not paro bhakti, they are not bhakti. They are pious activities that can help on the path of bhakti, but charity, etc., they are definitely not part of bhakti. And any dharma or occupational duty we do in the material world is so much useless labor if it does not lead us to Krishna bhakti. From verse number 16 to 20 describes the process of devotional service, that how the heart becomes purified, which helps a neophyte come to Naishtiki bhakti, meaning comes to bhava and prema. The process which is described from Shrunu to Mayasakta from Bhagavad Gita 7.1 is described in a step-by-step process in these verses in chapter 2, verses 16 to 21 onwards. These verses are significantly important. They are identical to Bhagavad Gita 7.1. My spiritual master has these Bhagavatam verses of 1.2.16 onwards in his daily invocation prayers. So 1.2.16 talks about sadhu sangha. That sadhu sangha is the starting point for a neophyte to get ruchi, to get taste for hearing the message of Vasudeva by rendering service to the book Bhagavata and the person Bhagavata. Meaning service part cannot be skipped. Otherwise, ruchi for hearing will not come. So again, hearing is the process, and this gives step-by-step process of sadhu sangha, next bhajana kriya, and goes all the way to bhava and prema. Then 1.2.17 talks about bhajana kriya, that when we hear about Krishna, just hearing this Krishna katha, speaking about Krishna, is purifying in of itself. Because when we hear about Krishna, that Lord who is situated in our heart, he washes away our impurities, because he becomes manifested, personally manifested, and starts washing. Because he is the well-wishing friend of all living entities. 1.2.18 talks about anartha nivriti and nishtha levels. That most of the anarthas get destroyed by serving the book Bhagavata as well as the person Bhagavata. As we get to hear the Krishna Katha from both, first by hearing, Krishna cleanses from within, then bhakti for him awakens in our heart. Right now, why I don't have Naishtiki bhakti? Naishtiki means steady and unshakable. Why I don't have unshakable bhakti? Because the modes are interfering with my connection to Krishna. Next, 1.2.19, the ruchi and asakti stages are described, that because of the modes of passion and ignorance, there is kama and lobha. With steady practice of bhakti, these lower modes go away and we become situated in Satattva Guna. 1.2.20, the bhava and prema is described, that with pleasant mind, by the practice of bhakti yoga, we engage in devotional service. Then we become liberated from all kinds of contamination. So first we become free from the lower modes, and then we become free from all contamination. And then 1.2.21, Srila Prabhupada is using this verse to show how from Shrunu to Asamsayam, means doubts completely eradicated, which are described in Bhagavad Gita 7.1. So all the attachments that are there in my heart, they get cut off. The attachments in the heart is what keeps me bound in the material world. This way, when desires and doubts go away, then we do not do any activity apart from Krishna's and Krishna's services. Therefore, all fruitive activities stop and one gets transcendental vision and one gets attached to Krishna. And the last part of this chapter describes Krishna or Vasudev as the supreme goal of life. These set of verses refute demigod worship because demigod worship is not regarded as devotional service. Bhakti means devotional service or worship of Krishna. Brahma, Shiva are indirect gods. Vishnu is the direct god. Great sages worship Vishnu for liberation. Shiva and Brahmaji are not independent of Krishna, Vishnu. This is a very important point to understand. Now, Shiva is different from the Shiva Tattva, means Shiva in the material world, the demigod, is different from the Sadashiva. Shiva Tattva is in between the Jiva Tattva and Vishnu Tattva. And at Shiva Tattva, there is only one individual, that is Sadashiva. You cannot compare Shiva with other gods. Shiva is in his exclusive position. So the sage's question number 4 gets answered here also in this chapter also. Question 4 was describe about the Lord who performs the adventures in his various incarnations. And here it describes that Purusha avatars create and maintain. And the question number 3 was that the question number 3 of the sages from chapter 1, that why did the Lord appear in the womb of Devaki as the son of Vasudev? The answer is to reclaim the fallen souls. That's a little longer summary of chapter 2. Any questions, comments, realizations? All right, let's do chapter 3. Archana is going to present.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone. I request permission and blessing from all the assembled devotees, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Parampara, Shri Shri Radha Krishna, to able to speak on the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 1, Chapter 3. Krishna is the source of all incarnation. I am presenting from verse 1 to 39. Chapter 3 gives answer to one of the questions asked by sages of Naimisharanya about the various incarnation of a Lord and the adventure of a Lord. To this, Sri Suta Goswami briefly explained the various incarnation from the beginning of creation. Avatar means one who descend. There are many categories, and within each category, there are many avatar. First is Purusha avatar, which is Karnodaksha Vishnu. The role is to manifest all the ingredients for a material creation. Then there is a Garbhodaksha Vishnu. First Purusha avatar, Karnodaksha Vishnu, entered each universe as a Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And Brahmaji take a birth on the lotus flower. The stem of the lotus flower from Garbhodaksha Vishnu from the navel. Next is Shirodaksha Vishnu, also known as Paramatma. From Garbhodaksha Vishnu, further expansion to Shirodaksha Vishnu, who is a Paramatma in all living beings. From Shirodaksha Vishnu or a Paramatma, all the incarnation are expanded, and he also called Hari. Another category of avatar are Lila avatar, example Matsya, Kurma, Vara, Lord Ram, Narsimhadev, and many others. This is just an example to know Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna is the source of all the incarnation. Next category is Guna avatar, or qualitatively incarnation, those who are in charge of various mode of material nature. Brahmaji, Vishnu, and Shiva. Vishnu is in charge of mode of goodness. Brahmaji is in charge of mode of passion. Shiva is in charge of mode of ignorance. Vishnu is a direct expansion of Supreme Lord. Another category of avatar is Yuga avatar. Krishna, as a Yuga avatar in a Kali Yuga, is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Hari Bol. Then there are direct empower avatar. They're also known as incarnation. Example, Kumaras, Narad Muni, Prithu Maharaj, Shesh Ananta. They all are direct empower avatar. And then there is an indirect empower avatar, which are known as Vibhuti. This Vibhuti avatar is described in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, the opulence of absolute. Then there is a list of 22 incarnation is given. The listing of this 22 incarnation is given just to come to the point that Krishna is the fountainhead of all the incarnation, which described in 1.3.28. Paribhasha Sutra is based to understand the series of unrelated words in the term of what is the essence. This verse clearly described Krishna is the source of all the incarnation. 1.3.28 is very important verse. Ete cha asma kalapunsah Krishna tu bhagavan swayam indrari vyakulam lokam madhyenti yuge yuge. That all the incarnation come from Lord Krishna. Krishna is Bhagavan Swayam. Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of a Godhead. Now the question he will raise, why the Lord appeared? To get the relief from all the miseries of life. What is the misery of life? Birth, old age, disease, and death. So, whoever carefully recite the mysterious appearance of the Lord with a devotion in the morning and the evening. Next is the Jiva and the Virat Rupa, imaginary material form. Therefore, do Krishna Katha so as to be free from ignorance. When we forget relationship with Supreme Personality of a Godhead, then we identify with body, and Maya Devi help us to identify with the body. Therefore, do devotional service. The same Maya Devi will help us to become spiritual, just as some electric energy can be used to heat up the room, and same energy used to cool down the room from furnace. Devotional service consists of hearing, chanting, serving devotee, doing services. We should take advantage of hearing, reciting the narration of a Lord activity, and talk about Lord remarkable quality. Lord is beyond reach of fruitive worker, as well as beyond the reach of material speculator. Only devotees of a Lord can know Lord Krishna, no one else. This is the quick summary of chapter 3. Krishna is the source of all incarnation. Hare Krishna, please forgive me for my mistake and my shortcomings. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Bol.
Any questions, comments, realizations for Archana's presentation?
Prabhuji, very nice presentation, crisp and short and very elaborate at the same time. Thank you, Archana.
Yes, very good. All right. I will also quickly summarize chapter 3 up to verse 39. So those of you who will be listening to this recording in future should focus on Archana's presentation for this chapter 3 because Archana did a very good job. My presentation is not as good as Archana. I'm only going to talk briefly. So unit 1 is titled Introduction to Srimad Bhagavatam, and this chapter 3 is titled Krishna is the source of all incarnations. So few list of incarnations are described, about 22 incarnations in this chapter. So incarnations are infinite. Only 22 incarnations are described here. Just to come to the point of 1.3.28, that Krishnastu Bhagwan Swayam, that Krishna is the fountainhead of all incarnation. Now, first you analyze avatars, various kinds of avatars. Avatar means one who descends. So there are many categories of avatars, and within each category, there are many incarnations. So some have this wrong notion that there are 8 or 9 avatars only, or whatever that number may be. Well, that is not correct. There are many categories, and within each category, there are many incarnations. So first Purusha is Karnodakshai Vishnu, who manifests all the ingredients for material creation. From Garbhodakshai Vishnu, from Karnodakshai Vishnu comes Garbhodakshai Vishnu. The first Purusha means Karnodakshai enters each universe as Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Therefore, Karnodakshai expands as Garbhodakshai Vishnu. And from Garbhodakshai Vishnu's navel, a lotus sprouts. On the lotus, Brahmaji takes birth. And then Garbhodakshai Vishnu further expands as Shirodakshai Vishnu. So Shirodakshai Vishnu is the Paramatma in all living beings. Then there are Leela avatars. Some examples are Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Rama, Narsimhadev, Vamanadev, many others. Then there are Guna avatars or qualitative incarnations such as Brahmaji, Vishnu, Shiva, who are in charge of the modes of material nature. Then there are directly empowered incarnations, meaning Shakti Avesha avatars. There are quite a few. Won't list all of them. Narada Muni is one, Prithu Maharaj, there are many of them. Your dear Srila Prabhupada is also Shakti Avesha avatar. And then there are indirectly empowered avatars, which are known as Vibhutis, which are described in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10. So the 22 incarnations of God described in this chapter 3 is just to come to the point that Krishna is the fountainhead of innumerable incarnations. 1.3.28 is obviously a very important verse and is also known as the Paribhasa Sutra of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Ete cha amsa kalau pumsha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridiyante Yuge Yuge. So Paribhasa Sutra is the key by which one can understand the actual purport of series of verses. And 1.3.28 is the Paribhasa Sutra for the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, that Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because there are many verses in Bhagavatam which say Lord Brahmaji or says Lord Shiva. So Brahmaji and Lord are not, Brahmaji and Shiva are not lords. It is Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. There is a context in which they are referenced with those terminology, but so that we don't forget. Therefore, Paribhasa Sutra is given in a series of long scriptures. And Paribhasa Sutra is generally once to establish that Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. The last part of this chapter describes that the jiva can become free from ignorance by hearing and discussing Krishna Katha. When we forget our relationship with the Supreme, then we identify with the body, and Maya helps us to identify further with the body and get entangled more. Therefore, solution is to do devotional service, and hearing and chanting are the most important and the easiest processes of devotional service from the 9 processes of devotional service described in Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.23. We should take advantage of hearing and reciting narrations of the Lord's activities. Then Lord's remarkable qualities are also described and also stated that Lord is beyond the reach of fruitive worker as well as mental speculator. Only devotees of the Lord can know Krishna. No one else can know him. Again, this is just a little brief attempt to summarize chapter 3. Archana did a much better job of summarizing this chapter. All should listen to Archana's presentation for all those who will be listening to this recording. I will pause here for any questions, comments, realizations. So I have some feedback to give you all. Chandran Prabhu, is it okay to give little feedback to you?
I'll be much pleased, Prabhuji. I will be.
All right. So everybody have undivided attention. So we also have Mansi present here. And Mansi didn't show up for the presentation. So I'm going to give feedback. Now, although I'm talking about Mansi, understand that Mansi is just an example. This applies to many of us. There is at least one more devotee present virtually among us right now who's in similar situation to Mansi. So I have explained to Mansi offline multiple times that spirituality is not about quantity. Spirituality is about quality. That Mansi attends and does so much devotional service, attends so many classes, that she is out of control in terms of which class is when. This is not going to help you at all. Spirituality is not about quantity at all. We have discussed multiple times that the standard process is to chant 16 rounds of japa every day. I cannot go back home faster by chanting 32 rounds every day or chanting 64 rounds every day. No, it doesn't. Spirituality is not mathematical. Spirituality is about developing taste. Spirituality is about respecting Krishna. So Mansi also asked in the other batch this question, how to develop attention span. I'm not sure if Mansi has heard the recording where I answered this, because Mansi was not present, I think, when I answered this question in batch number 5. So one of my point to the response of how to develop attention span was that you should do a reality check for your own self by listening to the short lectures titled "To Respect God, Krishna," means respect the time you have carved out for God, Krishna, as well as the second short lecture, "First priority is to keep the first priority as the first priority." Now, Mansi is just an example. I request all of you to do a reality check for yourself. There is at least one more devotee who is also virtually present among us right now, who also has overwhelmed with multiple classes and so many activities that the devotee attends some classes, misses some classes. Yes, you have the intent right, but the execution is more important. Because I keep repeating, quantity is not going to help you. This is a misunderstanding in ISKCON where devotees say just keep doing services. Just keep listening. Just keep doing more and more. Are Baba, this is not quantity that is going to help you. No. Quality. Where is your quality? Where is the respect to Krishna? And in the response in batch number 5 to this question, how to increase attention span, I'm not responding to all the points. It was a very long response that I gave. And my last statement as a response to that question was, is my response pinching you? And I asked the same question to you all devotees present here also. Is my this talk pinching you to become disciplined? Yes, no?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Ji Prabhuji.
And a brief response for Chandan Prabhu. So Chandan Prabhu did an endeavor to present. Yes, good. But Chandan Prabhu's presentation Chandan Prabhu's presentation was only talking some standalone points. Wasn't really connecting to the theme that hearing is the process of Srimad Bhagavatam. So yes, all the points that Chandan Prabhu talked about, they were all important points coming from Bhagavatam. But what are we trying to do here? We are trying to present the essence of a particular topic. So we don't have to just talk about individual points. We have to try to connect those individual points to what exactly is the essence that we have to focus on. So Prabhupada has explained that we don't have to manufacture the process again. At least for up to Canto 4, where we are in batch 1 and 2, and ongoing in Canto 4 onwards, you already have revision recordings of previous batches. So you don't need to manufacture the process. You simply listen to the previous revision recording and speak in your own words. And exactly what Ritu did today. And therefore, Archana and others were saying that Ritu is a great presenter. Why? Ritu is simply following the process that Prabhupada has given, that listen to the previous recording and just speak in your own words. And that was perfectly demonstrated by Ritu. I mean, others of you are also good presenters. I'm just trying to highlight a point that we don't have to just talk about some standalone points. Rather, our focus should be to talk about the essence of the topic that we are talking about. I'm hoping you all take my feedback as learning opportunity and not as chastisement. I have no intent of chastising any one of you. I'm hoping my voice is still not in an angry mode of chastisement. I'm just giving feedback. Everybody on the same page?
yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Ji Prabhuji.
So I mentioned about at the previous classes, I have mentioned to all of you to select your presentation slots. Now, only few devotees have selected their presentation slots across the various units, and it's only those few. And The rest of you say in class, yes, you will do it. But then when you go off the class, you are in your back to material world mode. So what's where's the transformation? So you don't need to wait. I have laid out by each date. You just pick your slot. There should be no empty slots left. I mean, what's the point in saying to me in class, yes, you will do it, and you not do it, and this is not one time. This is again and again. So that's what I was trying to explain a few minutes ago about discipline. I have given these two short lectures of how to respect Krishna is to respect the time we have carved out for Krishna, as well as first priority is to keep the first priority as the first priority. I have given those lectures multiple times. So you listen, but I'm not sure where is the transformation and action based on those. So I again request all of you that you don't need to wait. There should be no blanks left here. You should just pick, all of you should pick at least one every week. And some presenters, if there are no slots, I've also said, we have done it before, that for one slot, multiple presenters can do the presentations. So every week, everyone should pick up at least one presentation. What's stopping you? And everybody needs to prepare all units. So today when Mansi didn't show up, I asked all of you, is anyone ready to do the presentation? None of you picked up. And Prabhupada has said that we should be spontaneous to give a class at moment's notice. So do all of you prepare all the units, or do you prepare just the little slot that you are going to present? Silence.
Prabhuji, at least I do my little slot only.
Yeah, so that's not correct, right? We have discussed that our purpose is that we are revising, so everyone should prepare all. Otherwise, what's the revision? Where's the revision? Rest of you, at least Pragya is brave enough. Rest of you? Is the greater sound valid? Silence, I got silence.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, time constraints, not my other responsibilities, not able to complete all of it. So the class allows me to listen and revise as I pay attention, but definitely time constraints. I am sorry.
All right. So last class, I also explained that at batch number 5, I answered the question of how to read Srimad Bhagavatam purports. So at least Archana and Pragya heard the recording. Shivangi and Chandran Prabhu heard in the other batch where I repeated. You want to share what you heard? Archana.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So in that, what I understood that when we read some sentence, so we have to reconnect that with the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and then we have to talk on it.
Okay.
Prabhuji, what I recollect, or what I understood primarily was that Srimad Bhagavatam has to be, the purports have to be discussed with devotees. So it has to be read along with devotees and in presence of devotees.
All right. Very good. So we have about 10 minutes or so. So I'm going to play that same slide again for the benefit of all. That when you read Srimad Bhagavatam purports, what should be your focus? So understand that I am not teaching you all of these focus points. For my study of Bhagavatam at the Bhakti Vaibhav course, what I am about to show you on the slide, I actually go through all these points. But in our class, I am not teaching you all of these points because if I teach you all these points for many of the verses, will take just one class for one verse, and Bhagavatam will end up for 20 some years. And I'll give you an example for this, and the lecture, if you want to listen to this for comparison, you are welcome to get that lecture from me for Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.22. So when you read Bhagavatam and the purports, if the verse is a key memorization or key theme verse, then memorize the verse. Then focus on the essence of the verse as well as essence of the section. So we discussed today 1.2.12 to 22. The essence of this series of verses from 12 to 22 is that hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is the process for achieving pure devotion to Krishna. And then some of these individual verses also have an essence on itself. For example, 1.2.12 focuses on Shraddha. 1.2.16 focuses on Sadhu Sangha. So you focus like this. Next, very important that when you are reading Bhagavatam, focus on personal application, that how Srimad Bhagavatam can practically change you. An example is 1.1.3 describes cheating religion versus Srimad Bhagavatam teaching the highest religion of Krishna, which is also there in 1.2.6. We discussed this today. And this hearing point is also there in 1.1.13, 21, and then 1.2.12 to 22. All of them talk about personal application. Again, I'm only giving examples. This, what I will have on the screen for this whole page, can apply these principles for everything that you study in Bhagavatam. Next is realizations. That 1.1.10 is the standard of people in Kali Yuga, how people are having those 6 characteristics we discussed today also. Then 1.2.7, which knowledge is limb of bhakti and which knowledge is not. We discussed the practical aspect of the friend blackmailing you emotionally to take you to a movie. So basically you have to read Bhagavatam, that what changes can be made in your life in order to apply these personal applications and realizations. Right? Many of you keep giving me the response that I am too busy. Arey Baba, that is 1.1.10. The standard of people in Kali Yuga. Where is the transformation? Then next is cross-link with scriptures. That 1.2.6 talks about devotional service to Krishna. The same point is explained in Bhagavad Gita 9.34. 11.55 is known as the sum and substance of Bhagavad Gita, meaning devotional service is the sum and substance. 18.65, 66, they talk about the same topic of devotional service. And nectar of devotion, the definition of pure devotional service, Anya Vilahita Shunyam, is identical to Bhagavad Gita 11.55 and all these verses. So if you recall, I had given at the Bhagavatam overview, I had given a template of how to make notes. One of the column has cross-link. So Bhagavad Gita has principles and Bhagavatam has activities or day-to-day events of how to apply those principles and the results, that if you apply the principle properly, then you get proper results. If you don't apply the principles properly, then you get negative results. Next is focus on preaching application. There are so many verses, 1.1.1, 1.1.2, 1.2.10, 1.2.7, 1.2.11. I can go on. So each verse you read, how you can use it for preaching. The next point about mood and mission is little difficult. It can come by practice. Some example about mood and mission is that preface has the role of Srimad Bhagavatam in Krishna's mission to re-spiritualize the world. And 1.2.4 has the mood of devotee, that devotee is anxious to do good. Now, this is just an example. This mood of devotee, this mission of Krishna, this is spread over throughout Bhagavatam. And I will tell you that mood and mission is not easy at the start. It will take a little practice. Next, Srimad Bhagavatam has analogies after analogies after analogies. Srimad Bhagavatam is littered with analogies. We discussed today also some of those analogies, that Krishna knows everything. He is Abhigyana, just as the project chief engineer knows everything. And Krishna existed before creation and will continue to exist after creation, just as satellite or scientist exists before and after satellite. And then there are some examples given. So when you read Srimad Bhagavatam purport, you have so many points to focus on. I don't teach you in this detail. When I study Bhagavatam for my Bhakti Vaibhav, for each verse or majority of the verses, I go through so much detail. If I start teaching you at this detail, well, Bhagavatam will become 20-year project and you will lose interest. And I'll give you an example. And if any one of you is interested, you can get that sample recording to compare what you have on the screen. Please take a snapshot of what you have on the screen. Now, Srimad Bhagavatam is prayer after prayer after prayer after prayer. And the first set of mini prayers is in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.22 to 25, the 4 verses. And then full set of prayers comes in Canto 1, Chapter 8, Kunti Maharani prayers, as well as Canto 1, Chapter 9, Bhishma Dev prayers, and then throughout Bhagavatam. Now, the first set of mini prayers of 1.7.22 to 25, in our class, I only covered these 4 verses in about 5 minutes or less. For my Bhakti Vaibhav, one of the prayer of the 4 verses, which is just the 1.7.22, I have given a class for 30 minutes on one verse, where I am touching base on all or many of these points, such as recitation, then personal application, realization, cross-link, preaching, mood and mission, analogy. I have myself given a lecture on one verse, touching base on so many points. So when you read Srimad Bhagavatam, you can consider to read in this detail, then you get the full benefit of Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes, right now you all are elevated devotees. I'm just trying to take you to the next step. I will pause here for questions, comments, realizations. So if anybody is interested to do a comparison of how I teach in these batches at a very high level, you can you can get the recording for 1.7.22 from me, where I've given about 30-minute class, and you can do a comparison of what you have on screen in terms of the detailed discussion that is possible from Bhagavatam reading. Questions, comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
When you are showing the points in that realization, so you're talking about your own realization or what the topic is talking about?
Yeah, it's your realization from the topic.
Okay. Okay.
Right? I gave the simple example of 1.1.10.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Realization means a reality that already exists, but now I have realized. So 1.1.10, the qualities of people in Kalyu, is a reality from long time ago, but I have not realized until I read Bhagavatam and I say, wait a minute, yes, I can now see it all around me. And then you take it a step forward, that how do I don't continue to stay at that same level like materialistic people? How do I change? So Bhagavatam is about transformation, right? So you have to change, and discipline is step number 1. All right, we are just bang at 9 o'clock Toronto time. We'll stop here. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.